G'day guys, welcome to My Blue Heaven. In 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks time, we'll be either licking our wounds or celebrating like we've won the premiership, because it will be Friday. It will be 24 hours after our round one clash against the Tigers, and it's going to be a huge game for us, a real test for us to see where we're at. But I'm here to review yesterday's practice match against the Saints at the Docklands. Interesting game, very high scoring in the end, 19-11, 125, 26-point win. They led all night, the same as us, 15-9, 99. I think that was just, in the end, I think that scoreline pretty much summed up where we were at for most of the night. I know we got within 2 goals midway through that last quarter, or probably about the 20-minute mark. I think we got within 2 goals, but it never quite felt like we were ever going to get there. St Kilda always had the answers, and not only did they have the answers, but the answers came really easily, and it felt like that was going to be the theme of the night, in which it was. So I did write a lot of notes at the game last night. I was there live. It was great to be there live, sat second deck, virtually centre wing on the city side. Don't get a lot of opportunities to sit level 2. Great place to watch the football. Obviously, full view of the ground. We're able to see how we set up, in our forward half, our back half, and through the midfield. So I wrote down a lot of notes. Unfortunately, most of the notes are not so much negative, but areas of concern. I don't want to concentrate too much on that. I want to probably talk about the way I felt. Considering we are now going to go into the regular season, and I suppose my expectations now, after a win and a loss in the practice matches, I don't think it's been I wouldn't call it a really positive build-up in regards to, I don't think we've learned anything new. But maybe that could be a good thing. We don't probably go into this round one clash with as much hype as we potentially have gone in before. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But, when the game was over, and even before the game, I was looking forward to this game, because I spoke last week about this was going to be a great test for us. Full dress rehearsal against St Kilda. And I'm seeing us pretty much, we should be, I think, at a similar stage to St Kilda. And I go right back to that 2019 game where both Rats and David T took over as respective coaches. Both were interim coaches, took over in a bit of turmoil. Richardson went for the Saints, and obviously Brendan Bolton got the arse for us. Both teams were really struggling. We were probably struggling even more than the Saints at that stage, but we faced them in round 22 in a big game for both football clubs to see where we're at. Pretty much both teams were at full strength at that stage, and we had a terrific win. One of the best wins in recent memory for me as a supporter. It was just a terrific game of football, and we won by the 10 points, and at that stage we thought, okay, we could at least be neck to neck with St Kilda over the next few years. We'll probably develop now at similar speeds, and that's not always linear. Each team will develop at different stages, but we have been fortunate enough to have a lot of number 1 draft picks and high draft picks because of where we finished on the ladder. And I just thought at that stage that we could probably jump them. But that hasn't been the case, and this was my overriding feeling last night. And I'm just thinking and trying to be realistic here of where we are actually at as a football club going into this season, if we're going to compare ourselves to someone like St Kilda. So we had that win in 2010. 6 months later, they thump us in round 5 of 2020. I mean, the final margin at 23 points that day at Marvel. It was 18 points in the end, but they led by 7 goals at half-time. They absolutely destroyed us. And we saw then the significant jump of St Kilda in a short period of time. That we know they recruited well, but their game plan was solid. They wanted to play a particular way, and that was for everyone to see. And they ended up playing some really attractive football throughout the season, played finals, had a great win in the finals against the Western Bulldogs, and now building even further. And I thought my overriding feeling walking away from last night's game is St Kilda are, let's face it, they are a 4 to 5 goal better side than us, and that 26 points proved that. They led all night. For me, it never looked like we were going to win that game, as much as, we built a bit of excitement there. And for me, that doesn't so much hurt, but it's a bit of a slap in the face to where we're at, because the expectation for us this year, I think internally and externally, is that we play finals football this year. We know, and we've only played 2 practice games, and we can make a giant leap. We could actually make a giant leap, and I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. But on the proof of what I've seen so far against Essendon last week and last night against St Kilda, is that I don't know where that, apart from, say, Sard and Williams and Carl, I don't know where that improvement's going to come from, and how steep that curve is going to be for us to be able to play finals football this year. And for me, that's a bit of a concern and a bit of a worry going into the season. So at this stage, my expectations are quite low, particularly going against the Tigers, who I think, if they play their best football, are probably going to give us a bit of a spanking, which is a bit of a worry in itself. I also walked away thinking, what has happened, or what has happened in that time, and why St Kilda have taken that giant leap, and we've seemed to have sort of stagnated a little bit. I sort of thought in the 2 games so far, the Essendon game last week and St Kilda last night, who could we comfortably say, is sort of shown some improvement? And I could only think of probably 2 players in Zach Fisher and Paddy Dow. And Paddy Dow's coming off a pretty low base. He only played the 3 games last year. I thought he was really good last week, quiet last night early, but really worked into the game to become one of our better players. And I think Zach Fisher has proven that he could become, a pretty handy small forward. But if you look right through the team, it's pretty much status quo to what it was last year. I don't think, and it's only practice match form, but I wouldn't say Cripper's set the world on fire. Jacob Wiedering, I know he went down last night, but I thought his form in the game against Essendon was average last week, and his form up until he got hurt last night was average. I don't think Setters has really exploded. I think he's pretty much status quo to what he was last year. So where's that growth? So I sort of think, who's going to jump out of the box to move us forward? And I'm seeing a lot of the old sort of, and I mentioned last week about these practice games being an opportunity to see players grow, to get rid of old habits. And I don't want to pick on a young guy here, but I want to point out a thing in the last quarter, midway through the last quarter. We were coming pretty hard at that stage. I can't remember exactly what time it was, possibly around about the 20-minute mark of the last term. I haven't had an opportunity to watch the game a second time, but I don't know who received the ball in the middle. So if that's the centre square, we had either a free kick or a mark here, okay, and we're going down, okay, to this end here, okay, this is the city side of the ground, all right, so player X for us marks the ball here. Now, Tom Williamson, God love him, and I think he's going to develop, hopefully, into a pretty strong player. Okay, he runs past, so it's like this, and this is sometimes the footy IQ of our team, the footy smarts, knowing the right time to go and taking things literally. So that I would dare say that the message at 3/4 time was take the game on, take the game on, take the game on. Let's see if we can have a win. If we make a mistake here or there, so be it. But sometimes our players take this literally and don't have the footy smarts or the footy IQ, because there's got to be there's got to be the right way to do it. Now, Tom Williamson, who's a left footer, and he's one-sided player we have in the football team. In fact, I can't remember a more one-sided player. Zach Fisher's probably got the same type of problems. They're very much one-sided. And as much as Zach Fisher played well last night, I thought a number of a number of times he was caught, on the wrong side and had to turn around, which causes mayhem, causes confusion for players further up the field. And it might look good, it might look fancy, doing a blind turn here or there to get onto his preferred side, but sometimes that causes mass confusion for players further up ahead because you're not predictable. And sometimes it comes off, but most of the time it doesn't. But Tom Williamson, we're going down here, we need some quick goals. Tom Williamson, instead of running to this side, because he's a left footer, all right, you can wheel around onto his left foot, this side, come around, all right, he comes onto this side. I don't know if you remember it, guys. Surely everyone remembers. Saints had this area beautifully covered. Williamson gets the ball out to this side. He has to grab it, and he's on his right-hand side. He can't get around on his left, and he's caught holding the ball. Turnover and goal for St Kilda. Game over. Game over. And this is a consistent, not with Tom Williamson, and I hate to pick on a young guy, but it's the one, I suppose, that stuck out in my mind because it was late in the game. And it was at a stage where we had a chance to put some, I suppose, genuine pressure on St Kilda and make it a little bit more difficult for them and not make it easier for them to have a turnover and kick a goal. And this is where the problem lies for me, and this is where I think we're in such a precarious position, And I'm not here to be negative because for me, it could turn around. It could turn around, and maybe this is a part of our evolution. But Willow, what is he, 21 years of age, 21, 22 years of age. He's played, he's missed 2 seasons of football with a back injury. He's played less than 30 games. So he's a kid. Who has he got to learn off? Who is he watching, out on the ground? And who is he being influenced by as a medium-sized small defender? Who are his mentors there? Who's showing him the way? Who's he looking to? Who does he see make mistakes? Are they accountable for what they do? And then I sort of look, who are the serial sort of poor decision makers that I see on a weekly basis, which would frustrate me as a supporter. And no doubt, surely it's not going unnoticed within the club. It must. And to me, everyone at some stage is responsible, but to me, our serial poor decision makers are our leaders. So I look at last night's game, for example, and I look at the performance of Sam Doherty, and once again, I don't want to be here knocking Sam Doherty because he's had 2 knee reconstructions, he's gone through cancer, but the fact of the matter is he's captain of the football club and he's out there, and he's out there, and we can't be making those sort of excuses for him. But his decision-making and his ball use last night as the captain of the football club was atrocious. And this is not a new thing, because I remember back last year against Melbourne, probably an opportunity to win a game of football, round 2, to get that season. And we beaten by Richmond, but to get that season rolling, we had a chance to win late in the game. And it was Doc, the captain, the leader of the football club, who made 2 crucial errors, 2 really poor decisions. One holding the ball and then one out in the full. But last night, his decision-making and his kicking was nothing short of deplorable. Now, he's the captain. You look at, and Liam Jones, I think, has been outstanding in the first 2 games. His marking's been fantastic, but he's unreliable in terms of he gets ahead of himself. He needs to keep it simple. He's a vice-captain. Lockie Plowman, terrible decision-making. He's a vice-captain. I think he was part of the leadership group, or he's one of the leaders of the football club. Ed Curnow, decision-making, questionable. And even our other co-captain, Paddy Cripps, who constantly is hitting hands together because he's making the wrong decisions or trying to do a blind turn or taking the game on, getting caught onto his left foot. So I I think it's a serious problem that we've got, and you can have all the game plan in the world and all the intentions in the world of of turning the corner, but unless your experienced players and your leaders are showing the way through a wise head, sound decision making under pressure. And we're talking about a game now which is quickened up in pace. I noticed last night's game was really quick, so we're asking these players who make generally poor decisions when the game is slowed down, we're now asking them to make good decisions when the game is quickened up. And I think in a nutshell, that was my concern. And the aspirations of playing finals football in 2021, there's got to be a significant point there. And I mentioned the precarious position. So I look at some of those players and I think, who is vulnerable? Who of our younger players coming through who are good decision makers, who mightn't be scarred from the past, can make that next step to make us better? Because at the moment, it's pretty much same old to what it was last year. I know we've brought in, Sard and Williams and Fogarty, who I thought, for the most part, Williams kicked a couple, Sard was quite early, got into the game. I think Fogarty, give him time, but are they necessarily going to make us better, or should we be having a better system for them to fit into so that the whole becomes better? Because I was with my son last night watching the game live, and we were looking at those, particularly Williams at times and Sard at times, they looked a fraction lost within our system, because a lot of the times we appear to, we appear to guess our way out of problems rather than actually think our way out of problems. So do we understand the game plan? What is it? What we want to do? I think we play our best football when it's manic, when we are confused, but then we can't score, then we fuck things up. It really can be sometimes a mess. And that sounds very negative, but let's be realistic here, guys. If we're going to project, and a lot of things can happen, it's a long, brutal season. And we showed last year we went up to the fight for a long, brutal season. But if we look at that top 8 from last year, who are we going to replace? At this stage, we'd have to say St Kilda look like a 4 to 5 goal better team than us. We're going to have to do a hell of a lot to beat them when we see them next time. And things can change. Don't get me wrong, things can change. The first 6 weeks are going to be really interesting because we're going to face Richmond, obviously premiers last year. We're going to face Collingwood, who had a big win over in the West in the first final. Do we replace them? At this stage, you'd have to say no. There's no way we replace them. They stitched us up last year. We're not replacing Brisbane. On exposed form, we're not replacing Brisbane. We play them, I think, in round 3 or 4. And we're not replacing Port Adelaide on exposed form either. Their first 4 finals from last year, who we face in the first 6 rounds. For me, it's a pretty bleak picture in that regard if we can't at least break even. And what I mean by break even, have 3 wins on the board in the first 6 rounds to be in the mix. What did I like? What were the positives? I think the standout to me was in that last quarter, and I think also the early part of the third where we controlled the game, our ability to get the ball into the middle, our use of hands, particularly by our young players. I thought our young players are really impressive by hand. I talk of Paddy Dow, elite vision. I talk of Fogarty by hand as well, not so much by foot but by hand. And that link-up play through the corridor, then to give our opportunity for the ball to get into that forward line pretty quick. And I thought we stuck fat for most of the night. I thought St Kilda looked a lot better team. Their system looked better. They looked slick. They looked bigger. Possibly it was the jumpers, but they just looked a better team to me. But I thought we stuck fat. And this hasn't been a criticism of our football club, I reckon, since Teague took over. I think for the most part we've stuck fat in games and we've been up to the fight. But it is those other areas of concern, that seem to be the same messages that come through. The same messages: poor decision making, poor IQ, poor footy smarts, etc., etc. We manufactured a score. I don't know about the high scores. I don't know whether it's the change in style. His 99 points for us was at 72 points or 68 points last year. We'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. But we did manufacture a score, and we were sort of always in the game, but we were just a yard off the pace. The standouts for me, I thought Fisher, as much as he got himself into a bit of trouble on his right side, he needs to be a bit more predictable with the way he plays. I thought it was another positive performance as a small forward. I thought Pitt battled on. I mentioned him last week. The fact that we don't have Tom DeConning, I was really concerned about our ruck stocks. We'll hopefully get Levi back for round one. That will be the chop out that he needs. I thought his ability once again to go forward and kick 2 goals was a good sign. He was up against a brute last night, that big Hunter. So they really hit each other around. It was a really good hit out. Was happy for Sauce, worked into the game. I think he's battling for a spot with Mitch McGovern. That's going to be interesting to see. But on that form, Jack Silvani has to play. Once again, Paddy Dow. I think we're all a little bit worried about whether he could back up. Started the game very slowly, but I thought it was his work with Sam Walsh. And this was the pleasing thing I think about last night from a positive point of view. It was Walsh, it was Dow, and it was even O'Brien to a lesser extent who came on in that third quarter and just gave us a little bit of drive. And also Fogarty as well. I thought did some nice things. He led us in tackles with 7. But, you know, there are concerns. And let's not beat around the bush. Let's not say it's only a practice game. We have to critique it. Was a full dress rehearsal. These players wanted to win last night. Okay, they wanted to win. And when David Cunningham kicked that goal to put us within 2 goals, the hand went up. The crowd went crazy. So don't give me the shit that it's only a practice game. Okay, these are competitive beasts. And if we're critiquing this, if it was a home and away game, we'd be walking away pretty disappointed. And talking a 26-point loss saying it's the same old, same old. So that's the way I'm critiquing this game at the moment. I'm not losing faith at all. Unfortunately, I'm lowering my expectations because I think on exposed form at the moment, what I saw against Essendon and what I saw again last night, there is just no way. There is no way in a wide world we're getting anywhere near. Oh, we might get, within 2 or 3 goals of Richmond, but they're going to if they play anywhere near their best, they're going to be far too good for us. And then it becomes a battle into round 2 and beyond. It really does, because we're going to be on the back foot. Anyway, be interesting to see. Good to see the reserves side have a very good win today against St Kilda or Sandringham. Are they still with Sandringham? That game was played this afternoon, and good to see young Jack Carroll, the youngest player taken in last year's draft. A bit of a slider at pick 54, boy from East Fremantle. I think the same club that Patrick Cripps came from. Just a young kid, played exceptionally well, midfielder. And also Matt Owies kicked 3 goals as well. And if one thing showed up last night is how dangerous small forwards can be and how all at sea our defence was when you have a really good, dynamic, medium-sized small forwards who are able to find space, are strong in the air, good off the deck, and St Kilda had that in spades last night. And really, when we look at ours, we had Fisher, okay, still developing, but there's not a lot else there. Eddie played, kicked a couple, but can we rely on him for much longer? No, so it's got to be, does Matt Owies come in at some stage? Durden's going to get his opportunities this year as well. It's going to be bloody interesting to see how it pans out. Will Gov get back? I'm hearing not. I'm hearing that he definitely won't play round 1, but Levi's a big chance. And then we're just going to have to wait and see on Williams with that hit on Hunter Clark. Hopefully he gets the nod, and also big Levi Casbolt as well, and a couple of others. So that's about it, guys. If you like these videos, please hit us up for a subscription. I love doing them, but the more subscribers I have, The more likes I have, the more it gets out there, the better off obviously it's going to be for me and also for you in that regards. And once again, I really, really do appreciate all the feedback I get. I was at the game last night. People, I actually had a hat on last night. I was just not feeling, in the best in regards to talking and stuff. But people coming up to me and saying hello, which was fantastic. I'm a little bit shy when it comes to that stuff, but your feedback is truly welcome and appreciated. So I will catch you again. I've got a couple of more videos to do before round one over the next 13 days before the big one against the Tigers at the MCG. It's bye for now.